Taylor Swift comes out against Trump.
I don't care if they write that. Really is a big deal. She votes against fair pay for women. She votes against the reauthorization of the Violence Against Women Act, which is just basically protecting us from domestic abuse and stalking.
What caused Taylor Swift to lose her composure? That's what we'll uncover in today's video. Welcome back as we dive deep into the chaos of left-wing politics, media bias, and the reckless rhetoric driving today's political discourse. From Kamala Harris's muddled public statements to instances of blatant incitement against Donald Trump, we'll expose the hypocrisy and misinformation rampant among left-leaning figures in politics and entertainment. Join us as we dissect the absurd claims from The View, challenge the Charlottesville narrative, and examine how the media fosters dangerous rhetoric. Buckle up, let's cut through the noise.
Now to the ladies of The View, and here Joy Behar indulges in more crazy, reckless rhetoric, claiming that Donald Trump is such a threat that every artist must back Kamala to save the Republic.
In this emergency that we're in, I think that the Who's artists should come out and speak for Kamala against Donald Trump, because he is an existential threat to the country. What do you say to that?
They speak like this even after an attempt on Trump's life 2 months ago that left a man dead, and Trump escaped death by millimeters. And talking about reckless rhetoric, here is Democrat Rep. Jasmine Crockett saying MAGA is a domestic threat just a few hours before another attempt on Donald Trump's life.
I talk about the fact that when we swore in finally in January, that we swore to defend against those that are coming against us, whether they are domestic or international. And right now, I feel like MAGA in general, they are threats to us domestically. And we see it time and time again.
Joy Behar and the hosts of The View often perpetuate extreme rhetoric against Donald Trump, labeling him an existential threat while ignoring the violent implications of their own language. Behar has called on artists to rally behind Kamala Harris to save the Republic from Trump, painting him as a danger that must be eradicated. This perspective overlooks the role inflammatory language plays in escalating tensions and sidesteps accountability for Democrats who make similarly provocative statements. Despite recent assassination attempts against Trump, the hosts focus solely on vilifying him, disregarding the potential repercussions of their rhetoric and the media's failure to hold left-leaning figures accountable. Whoopi Goldberg, in particular, insists that violent political rhetoric is exclusive to the right, dismissing the left's contributions to escalating tensions. This selective critique exemplifies media bias, with The View condemning Trump and his supporters while ignoring the incendiary actions and words from left-leaning politicians and activists.
Stop this thing. Let's stop this both sides stuff.
It's a bunch of...
Because it's not correct. It is not both sides. It is one clear side. And you can point to many reports. You can point to all kinds of stuff that's been reported. You guys have to pull it back. This is not us or them. This is you got to stop doing what you're doing, JD, and what you're doing, Mr. T, because you are not helping the situation.
Projection and lies, that's all the left have. They accuse their opponents of precisely what they're guilty of. And we have another lady from The View, Chief Nincompoop Anna Navarro, who went on CNN to share more conspiracy theories. She's moved on from the Russian collusion hoax business. Now she's suddenly worried about the folks in Springfield, Ohio.
The problem is that Donald Trump, who I think, if you were doing hurricane categories, he's on hurricane category 5, whereas the other side might be a 2. And Donald Trump and J.D. Vance are not questioning the rhetoric. Right now, because of their rhetoric, because of what he said in that debate, there's been 33 bombing threats in Springfield, Ohio. That would not have happened but for this false conspiracy theory being spread by the vice presidential and presidential Republican candidate. And those Haitians in Springfield, Ohio, and those students and the people that are victims of these threats and everything that's going on there don't have 24/7 secret.
The hosts of The View, including Whoopi Goldberg, frequently blame Republicans and Donald Trump for violence, ignoring the broader dynamics behind political unrest. By focusing exclusively on Trump and his supporters, they perpetuate an oversimplistic narrative that attributes social discord solely to right-wing rhetoric. This approach disregards inflammatory language from left-wing figures, shielding Democrats from accountability. Such one-sided framing distorts public perception, oversimplifies complex issues, and reinforces polarization. The hosts have also downplayed Taylor Swift's failed political activism in Tennessee, particularly her vocal endorsement of Democratic candidates in 2018. Despite her opposition to Republican Senator Marsha Blackburn, Blackburn secured a decisive victory. Instead of addressing the gap between celebrity influence and voter behavior, The View elevates Swift as a progressive icon, reflecting a broader tendency to ignore failures within their ideological circle and perpetuate a one-sided narrative.
Trump.
I don't care if they write that. I'm sad that I didn't 2 years ago, but I can't change that. I'm saying right now that this is something that I know is right, and you guys, I need to be on the right side of history, and if he doesn't win, then at least I tried. It really is a big deal. She votes against fair pay for women. She votes against the reauthorization of the Violence Against Women Act, which is just basically protecting us from domestic abuse and stalking. She thinks that if you're a gay couple, or even if you look like a gay couple, you should be allowed to be kicked out of a restaurant. It's really basic human rights, and it's right and wrong at this point, and I can't see another commercial and see her disguising these policies behind the words Tennessee.
Celebrities like Taylor Swift have faced criticism for their political activism, often accused of lacking a nuanced understanding of the issues. Critics argue that Swift, who has supported Democratic candidates such as Marsha Blackburn, does so without fully grasping their policies or the broader political landscape. In her Netflix documentary, Miss Americana, Swift's emotional remarks about Blackburn's voting record on issues like women's rights and LGBTQ+ protections have been dismissed as overly dramatic and superficial. These critics claim Swift relies more on emotional appeals than factual analysis, raising questions about her effectiveness as a political influence.
Biden passed a series of executive actions, and illegal border crossings are now at their lowest levels in about 5 years, so much so that Greg Abbott is no longer busing people to other cities. But let me ask these fundamental questions.
Please.
Will families be separated under your mass deportation?
Again, I do want to answer this question about families and about deportations, but you made this point that border crossings are lower. Border crossings at the southern border are lower because the Harris administration is sending more immigrants through the ports of entry. So instead of coming through the southern border, they're now being flown at taxpayer expense to the ports of entry all over our country. The number of illegal crossings, they're not any lower. They're just shuffling how the people are coming into the country in the first place. And this is very
They're
important.
able to process it more efficiently, but Greg Abbott's not setting other things.
I don't want a border czar who makes it more efficient for illegal immigrants to come to this country. That's why.
Major news outlets like MSNBC and NBC consistently blame Donald Trump for political violence while neglecting the role of violent rhetoric from left-leaning figures. These organizations frequently portray Trump and his supporters as the primary instigators of unrest while failing to scrutinize inflammatory remarks from Democrats. This selective coverage shields Democratic politicians from accountability. For example, statements by Kamala Harris and Joe Biden that contain inaccuracies or promote divisive narratives often go unchecked. By neglecting to hold left figures to the same standard, the media fosters a biased narrative that exacerbates tensions and creates a distorted public perception of political violence. This unchecked rhetoric contributes to division, undermines public trust in media, and perpetuates a skewed political discourse where the actions of the left escape scrutiny. What's your take on today's discussion? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and thank you for watching.